Folks, the economy is at a breaking point. That's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people out there saying we only have a couple months to go before something catastrophic happens. Other people are erring on the other side that they're just going to find new ways to kick the can down the road. Even though we're seeing a lot of bad things happening right now, they're just going to keep extending it and pretending that everything is fine. Hey everybody, you're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust. My name is JJ. We're back with another dose of economic reality. As always, please make sure you are subscribed. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. And by the way, got the mad turkey back here. You see the turkey? He's upset. It's November. It's a little over a week from Thanksgiving. Turkeys aren't doing so good right now. They're wondering if they're going to be on the dinner table or if they're going to stay maybe at the farm or even in the wild, depending on where they're at. I hope you're doing better than the turkeys are nowadays, but what do you think about that? He doesn't look too happy. So hope you're doing better than Mr. Turkey Guy back here. But let's get into the news, folks. A lot to talk about. What have we recently found out? The tariffs were rolled back on several items, including beef. And that came amid the complaints from the consumers that things are too expensive. But then again, we were told that the tariffs didn't have any effect on the cost, right? We were told that those costs got passed along to the buyers. They're going to eat the tariffs, right? So we knew that wasn't true. But what we just saw happen actually confirmed the fact that tariffs do cause prices to be higher for consumers. Because if they didn't, then why roll the tariffs back, right? So obviously this was a reaction to the backlash and to the problems that people are having with people waiting in food lines, especially during the shutdown, people waiting in food lines for hours, right? And we saw food banks reporting that days where they would have 150, 200, 250 people turn into 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 people. So many people that they ran out of food, and that people in the back of the line or even in the middle of the line were told, sorry, no food. You can get out of line now. You can go home because we ran out of food. That's how bad things were. So obviously they had to reopen this thing because I think even the powers that be weren't ready for the struggles that a lot of people were going through, right? And we're going to hear from a few different people on the other side here. But first, let's take a look at a couple news items here before we get started into the videos. And I'm sure that many of you, probably most of you, have heard that the penny is going away. They just minted the last penny in Philadelphia. And first, let's just talk about what's behind this here. First of all, pennies, like the article says right up here with The Atlantic, pennies are trash because everything costs so much, you can't even use a penny anymore, right? I mean, you might have exact change if you buy something for, let's say, $1.07. It's nice not to have to break $1 with, let's give them $2. Let's say you're paying cash. You get $2, you get 97 cents back in change. So it's nice to have those 7 maybe pennies, maybe 5 cents and 3 pennies. It's nice to have exact change, but here's the thing. Hardly anyone uses cash anymore, right? It's less than 10% of transactions now. Everybody's swiping credit cards. So there's one thing. And two, even if everybody did use cash, what can you buy for a penny? You can't buy anything for a penny. In fact, if you go back a few decades, not sure which decade it was, maybe the 80s, they had penny gumballs. Some of you are old enough to remember the penny gumball machines, right? 1 cent gumballs, right? You don't see that anymore, right? I was in a store. My daughter was asking for a gumball, and I think it was 25 cents. I told her no. I'm like, that's a ripoff. It's probably trash. It's probably also been in there for like months. Who knows? So I told her no, but yeah, 25 cents. What used to be a penny now it's 25 cents for a gumball. And yeah, the gumballs are a little bit bigger. These look like smaller ones. But still, folks, come on. What can you buy for a penny? I mean, let me know down in the comments. Hardly anything. So there's that. But then the cost of producing the penny was more than a penny. So it made no sense from multiple different angles. It made no sense to keep the penny in circulation. No sense, right? The cost of production alone would be enough, I think, to just get rid of it. Plus, hardly anyone uses cash, like we talked about. But look what's happening here. Look what's being reported. The last U.S. pennies that are minted are going for millions of dollars. Remaining coins possibly worth millions of dollars at auctions. So you've got part of the country waiting in food lines for hours, and a lot of them to get turned down and not even get the food. But then you've got other people that are willing to pay millions of dollars for a penny, just because it's one of the last pennies being produced. Folks, I think this is the sign of this K-shaped economy where the curve on the K going up, that's the top 30%. Bottom 70% is the K going down, and what they refer to as the K-shaped economy. Folks, people out there paying millions of dollars for a penny. The same type of people paying millions of dollars for like a baseball card, for a piece of cardboard, right, which doesn't do anything. It just sits in a piece of plastic so you can look at it. This is the divide we see, and this is one of the biggest questions we get here. JJ, if everybody's struggling financially, why do we see all these people out spending money? Well, first of all, not everybody's struggling, right? And there was a recent report out, divert to this for a second here. A recent report out that said 1 in 4 people are living paycheck to paycheck. And I got a few questions on this because we've been talking about the other reports that say 68%, 70%, 72% are living paycheck to paycheck. But what they did in this is they looked at the number of delinquencies and using that as the indicator of someone living paycheck to paycheck. So obviously, delinquencies aren't above 25%, so it's about 1 in 4. But when you look at the number of people that have to go into debt just to pay their bills, it's closer to 70%, right? So there's different ways of figuring, what paycheck to paycheck, or there's different definitions of what paycheck to paycheck is. If you just look at delinquencies and you call that the definition of paycheck to paycheck, meaning 25% of people delinquent on a bill, that's considered paycheck to paycheck. But look at the other part of it where 70% have to go further into debt each month just to maintain their household budgets. In other words, people are paying bills with credit cards, paying off credit cards with other credit cards, doing balance transfers, borrowing money here to pay somebody over there, right? So this money shuffling thing is what we're seeing. And in other words, if you don't have the cash to pay it without having to shuffle money around, that, in my opinion, is the real definition of someone living paycheck to paycheck. And that's, I think, what they should use. But we're seeing different studies. It's kind of like the home prices, right? Everywhere you look, the median home price is a little bit different. Like we have Zillow and some of these online real estate companies. And then we have different data from like the Fed and stuff like that saying that the price is much different, right? So everywhere you look, it's going to be different. So you kind of got to dig into the details a little bit, to find out what's exactly going on. And that's what we do here on this channel. But first of all, let's hear from a few people, though, who are going to give their take on inflation, the cost of living, the economy, and more, starting right here. Take a listen.
Inflation is horrible right now. Yes, we get it. But I did not realize it was this bad. Now, I don't go here too often, but every once in a while, I'll get in the mood for some Taco Bell. And because I don't go here too often, my transaction history is very small. So I can easily pull it up over like the last 4 years. And I always try and order through the app because you get the better deal. But if you take a look at this transaction from 2022, you will see that a Build Your Own Cravings box was $6.09. Now, this is just for the area that I live in. It could be different where you live at, so don't hop in the comments saying, it's cheaper here. Okay, cost of living is different everywhere you go. But in my area, in 2022, it was $6.09. I go on the app to try and place an order for my cravings box, that same cravings box, the same one, and the price has jumped to $11.99. That is insane. That is literally a 96% price increase. And for what? It's Taco Bell. If it's that bad for Taco Bell, imagine what it is for everyday goods. We're screwed.
So he might be in California because prices really went up here in California because they made this law that minimum wage is $20 an hour now for fast food workers. And so I think the fast food prices went up here in California a lot more than other states. But let me know what you think about this. Again, they're trying to tell us inflation's like between 2 and 3%. It's a joke, right? And then we're seeing prices double in a few years in many different categories, not just fast food, but people are reporting electric bills doubling, their rents doubling. Hopefully that's not you or anyone watching this video, but we do see a lot of reports out there of things like that happening here. Take a listen to a few other people. Then we've got some other news on the other side that I think you're going to find very interesting here. Take a listen to this, though.
If your job doesn't cover your bills, there's no point in going to work and your job is a scam. I really feel like people aren't angry enough for me. Like, how do we normalize just, continuously pushing through burnout and exhaustion and wearing it like a badge of honor? I genuinely don't know how much longer I can keep pushing through this shit. Like, I feel like I'm losing my mind in the worst way possible. I almost look at this world like they put a chip into everybody else's brain and make them okay with the way things are, and they just completely forgot about some of us. But once you hit your breaking point or you crash out, you're always labeled crazy or mentally ill. I really feel like things are never gonna give, and it's like people still effortlessly go to work happy to make the rich richer. I feel like we all collectively need to be saying no until the cost of living goes down, everybody can afford food, and we're all getting our needs met. And we're being deprived of all of those things.
Wow, she doesn't look happy at all, folks. And that's, I think, typical of the U.S. consumer. But not everybody's going to put that face on. They're not going to put on that sad face or that frown face. They're going to give you the happy face. The server at your restaurant is probably living paycheck to paycheck. They're going to come out and smile and go through the motions and pretend everything's fine and be cheery and chatty. But a lot of people are feeling like she looks right now. The look on her face, a lot of people are feeling it on the inside. They may not show it. They may not tell you. And I think she's pretty brave. And a lot of these people that are putting their thoughts out there in social media, I think are pretty brave for putting it out there. And she's asking the question, like, this is not normal. Why is everybody accepting this, barely scraping by, going to work, happy to make somebody else rich? Why is everybody else accepting this as normal? Well, what's happened is they've conditioned people over years and years that this is normal. It's like the frog in the pot. He doesn't jump out of the pot if you turn up the heat very slowly. And finally, the frog is boiling before it realizes it's boiling. It's too late. Can't jump out because you're fried. That's the scenario, folks. The cost of living went up, especially after 2020, pretty rapid. So it wasn't always slowly. But over the decades, though, it's been a continuous grind. Higher cost of living, higher cost of living. You're required to take out more debt, more loans just to get by. Hardly anyone owns their home anymore. And now it's going to be a 50-year mortgage if things play out the way they're talked about right now. It's going to be a 50-year mortgage. So even if you bought a home at 20 years old, which most people can't do, can't buy a home at 20. Nowadays, maybe 15, 20, 30 years ago, you could. Buying a home at 20 right now, very difficult. Even if you bought your home at 20, though, if you're one of the few people, you're not going to pay it off till you're 70, right? In other words, there's a lot of people that won't even live to see their mortgage paid off. Now, most people don't keep the mortgage for 50 years. They refinance, they sell their home. I think the average is like 6 or 7 years. But the fact that you're in a 50-year mortgage and the amount of interest you're paying over the time, and yes, it's going to bring the payments down a little bit, but you know what's going to happen, right? When payments are lower, people are going to pay more for the house. Oh, now my payment's only this. That means I can pay more. And what's going to happen? It's going to either make home prices go up or make home prices stay where they're at when they normally would have dropped, right? When people can't afford the payments, eventually something has to give. The price should drop. And what they're doing now is they're just tinkering with the monthly payment to try to keep these overinflated home prices at high levels, right? They're not allowing any price corrections because when price corrections happen, that makes the economy look bad. And nobody wants to look bad, do they? Take a listen to this.
I am so tired of living my life in survival mode because despite having 2 college degrees and making close to $80,000 a year, I still cannot keep up with the cost of living. I still cannot afford all of my bills every month and have to live paycheck to paycheck. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I am sacrificing my mental health, my time, and my energy to take care of people in their most vulnerable moments. And a lot of the time, they do not make it. At the very least, I should be able to pay my bills. And for anyone who's thinking, oh, well, you shouldn't have chose that job. Somebody has to do it. And you know damn well, if your loved one was critically ill, you would want somebody to take care of them, right? Something has to give.
There's another one, folks. What did she say? Did she say 2 jobs? No, 2 degrees. Has 2 degrees, making $80,000 a year. and living paycheck to paycheck in survival mode. What you call it? Survival mode. And by the sounds of it, she works in the medical industry. And it's the type of position, it sounds like, where you're going to see people not make it and see people, pass away. Unfortunately, it's probably a very stressful job, probably a very depressing job too. And even people working those types of jobs, barely scraping by, paycheck to paycheck, struggling. 2 degrees. How much student loan debt do you think she has with 2 degrees? Right? Probably anywhere from like 30 to 60,000, unless she's been paying it down, which 90% of the people with these, and I shouldn't laugh, 90% of these people aren't paying it down. They're barely making the minimum payment. Same thing with credit cards, because we see the balances get higher each time the report comes out. Every 3 months, every quarter, the report comes out, balances are higher for these all these different debt categories, right? So we know the direction that things are headed. People are getting further into debt for the most part. And people are just asking the question now, something's got to give, something's got to change, something's got to break, something's got to crack. Folks, there's always a chance where there's the black swan that nobody saw coming that could bring down the entire system, right? It could be another country compromises the U.S. financial system, right? Everything is so digital now. It would only take someone coming in, a bad actor, a hacker, to come in and bring down the entire system. And that could be, the big scare that brings down all the markets, that brings down the entire economy, right? So that could happen, but without something like that, without something catastrophic that brings down or freezes up the entire banking system, you're going to see this inflation continue to get worse. And that's why they had to pull back the tariffs on a lot of these different food items.
We live in New York City, so obviously everything is going to be super expensive. But this is just the most outrageous pricing I've ever seen.
Ridiculous.
We got 3 things. Feel Good Foods, these the pork soup dumplings. I'm obsessed with them. I haven't tried this one yet, but we'll report back. Annie's pizza bagels. He wanted a Hot Pocket. Couldn't find him. Okay. Ben and Jerry's ice cream. 3 things. Guess how much these 3 things cost.
All right, let me take a guess here. 5, 7. I'm gonna guess $25 in New York. That's my guess. What's your guess? I'll give you 3 seconds. Okay, let's play it. Let's hear it.
Don't tell them. 3 items.
It's a lot.
A lot of money. First person to guess, you know what? First person to guess it right,
We'll send you a
I
pizza
will
bagel.
Venmo you that amount of money. It is just absurd. There's literally nothing better than getting
Come
home
on,
from a
hang
trip
on.
knowing
I guess we
that
got to go to the
you're
video
making your
comments.
dog
Hang on,
literally
one moment here.
waiting for you.
All right, people. Looks like I found her pricing down here. Looks like her in comments there. $36 for those 3 items. I guess the Ben and Jerry's alone was like $7, and the pizza thing was like 16. So it's like, I don't know if that's the right breakdown, but yeah, New York City, folks. I mean, she lives in a high rise. You can see the view out the window there. See if I can get a little glimpse of the view. Paying a high price for that view, but the jobs do pay a little bit more in New York. I know a few people. I've got family that lives in New York, downtown New York, Manhattan, and they're making some pretty good money, but the cost there is kind of like California. The wages out here are higher, like the $20 minimum wage for fast food, but everything costs more. So you're kind of at the same level, whether you're living in Arkansas or whether you're living in California, based on just wages. Now, obviously, there's better jobs in different places, right? So it's not all even like that, but as far as in general, if you're going to pay more, wages are higher typically. What do you think about that, folks? $36 for these 3 items. They probably don't have any kids. They look like a young couple, probably have 2 incomes, and they're getting by in New York, folks. But how are you doing? How are you getting by? What do you think about all this? Where does it end? Are you living like this guy back here, Mr. Turkey, the angry turkey guy back there? Or are you doing well? Happy holidays to everybody. Hope you're okay, not stressed out. Hope you're getting by just fine. All right. And staying on top of this news and this information, I think, can only help, right? Definitely can't hurt. Anyways, like to hear from you down in comments. Drop a comment about any of these people that we heard from today. The one with 2 degrees and living paycheck to paycheck, living in the or working in the medical industry, living, what did she say? Struggling, right? Anyways, hope all of you are doing well. Keep stacking. Bye for now. Peace.